Jeremy. I'm the founder of NAS.ai. NAS is a notebook as a service platform. We are basically taking Jupyter Notebook, which is the most used data science interface, but it's mostly a development environment. And we have added microservices around it to be able to basically build data products from notebooks. And we first met with Jerome when he registered to the software a few months ago. And we directly connected with him because it made sense at that time to understand what are the first users thinking, doing with the product. And we already talked about DataOps together, and we became really aligned on a lot of subjects. So I will not wait more before giving you the mic, Jerome, and maybe start with a little presentation of yourself in a few 1-2 minutes, and then we can deep dive into the presentation you've prepared.
Sure. My name is Jérôme Grandsac. I'm based in Switzerland. On my career, what can I say? I spent a lot of time in financial institution, firstly as a developer, and then project manager, in trading rooms or asset management, stuff like that. Then almost 10 years ago, I changed a little bit my perspective in terms of activities, and I went through working with vendors, software vendors around data. And so I can name them. One is no longer existing. It's DataWatch, which was doing some real-time streaming visualization. And another one is Tamer. And where at Tamer, basically, we used to manufacture a machine learning that is really great at classification and entity resolution. And when you talk about this kind of stuff, you basically having to hit hard a large amount of data, and this is where DataOps comes. Okay, so I've been touching DataOps with Tamer, so that's why we're gonna deal with that tonight, this evening. Otherwise, I'm no longer with Tamer, so I'm not promoting Tamer. I'm promoting DataOps, just to be clear. And, at the moment, I'm working for the International Committee of Red Cross in Geneva.
Good.
Okay, let's go.
That's a pretty impressive organization that is operating all around the world. So I assume you have a lot of good stories also on that stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a very different world than the world you could imagine in a bank. It's sometimes you have some constraints at Red Cross that you can't imagine, and
yes.
it makes it very difficult.
I can kind of relate to what we've said in private, where they have so many data confidentiality and keeping everything anonymous and everything. So yeah, so basically you have been working in the bank, now you're working for the Red Cross, and all the way during your career, you've been touching DataOps kind of, and working especially on this at Tamer. And now you kind of advocate for DataOps activity.
Yeah, absolutely. When you work as a developer, 15-20 years ago, you're dealing with data all the time. It can have different forms, and so it can be a database, but it also can be logs file. And at the time, we didn't have Splunk or stuff like that. It was just scripting stuff with a language like Awk. And that was dealing with DataOps as well, because we had to build some pipelines. But now things are getting better. People are getting more educated, and there's still a lot of things to make sure that people get in their mind tattooed somewhere to make DataOps a success. So let's go with that. So we've untitled this presentation "No Data Project Without DataOps," and well, there's a reason for that. Let's go and see why. So the question we could ask is, what is wrong with data project? And I've put here some numbers you can find easily. They are all dealing with big data or data science and AI, machine learning. You see, 85 of big data project fails. 80% of AI project will remain alchemy run by wizard. 77% of business reports of businesses report that business adoption of big data and AI initiatives continue to represent a big challenge for business. 87% of data science projects never make it into production. Well,
And you
there
have
are
a lot of stats like this all the way. Basically,
yeah,
most of IT projects fail because blah blah blah. I
yeah.
guess
And there is a commonality here. Is we can hear it's almost always around 80% of failure, which is huge. And the other
yeah.
stuff is all dealing with what we deal around data, big data, AI, and stuff like that. So here, the usual suspect of why it's happening like that is sometimes you're going to work with data that are not the right data. We've seen that all the time. Or you're solving the wrong problem, or you're not deploying value fast enough so that the business say, well, I'm not sure it's working. Or there is a common mistake I've seen sometime pretty all the time everywhere, thinking that data is an IT problem. It's not. It shouldn't be. It should never be, again, a problem, an IT problem. It's not an IT
I could
problem.
not agree more. I could not agree more. That's totally it.
As well as you would overestimate the data culture or the data literacy in your enterprise. Well, people knows what Tableau is and know how to make joining two data sets together. Well, be careful of that. People understand data, but not that deep. Some people dismiss data governance, saying, "Well, we've been all doing that all the time. I don't see why data governance should come," or not having the skilled people. And the most important thing is not, business on giving a choice. They want this. They want a circle. They want, oh, we want this circle, and they get a square at the end. And basically, they
Yeah.
all the way to get to the square, they were never questioned. And this is where it's going wrong. And I like this thing here, when we have the perspective of, or the understanding of data in a company. This is what, I don't know if you can see my cursor. This is how I see my data in my company. I know it's not perfect, but I have this impression here that, I can access my data. This one is a bit weird. It's blue. Well, I would like an orange thing, but it's okay. We are dealing with that. And the reality is this one. This is the reality. This is not happening
Yeah.
like you would think. And maybe this is the perspective of the IT, and the reality is the business here. So why is that way? It's because data are difficult to access sometimes. I've seen some Gartner reports saying like 12% of the data available in the company are accessible, and they are dispatchable.
12%.
Go ahead.
12, you said?
Yeah, 12%. I remember that this number maybe 5
Okay.
years ago. Maybe it's better now. I hope so. But that's what I remember. And and sometimes, and we've seen that when I was at Tamer, and when we had, siloed data sources, multiple CRMs that don't talk to each other, all the stuff. When you have data that are manually entered or stored in a different way, the structure is different. Some flat files or unstructured, all the different standardization, that makes difficult to use. And basically, I would say from the 4 V's of the big data, I would say that the data variety is the mountain to climb. And you can see this little blood drop here, just to see if you don't pay attention to that, you're gonna suffer. So that's
Exactly.
data variety is really a problem, in my opinion.
Can I add
And
something, Jerome? Because I feel like connected to what you're saying in the sense that for us coming from the business, I've been doing most of my career in finance. There were so many data sources in different places that at the end of the day, it finishes into one Excel spreadsheet that this guy, the controller, the financial controllers, he knows about. He has made his nice referential file. Everything is into his Excel spreadsheet, and the actual value is in there. This guy has been making the master data management by himself. He has been managing everything on his own, and he gets the final say because he is talking to the big boss. And he is making this proxy between the actual data that is lying into the system and the actual decision makers.
yeah, Well, it's a common problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a common problem, definitely.
So why are we using DataOps? DataOps is made in a way that you can deliver successful data projects, and you want to deliver fast. Use DataOps, and it's going to generate value for the business and fast again. So that's key because nobody wants to wait for a year to get their data as they want because they can't wait for that. They are going to do it in Excel again, as you said. So it's
Yes,
yeah, they can't wait. So it's better to deliver fast. And you're going to if you use an ops a little bit, and if you deliver fast and some value, you're going to build data as an asset for the company. And you also have to focus on what the business asks for. Okay, this is really important. Business is where things with data are starting with. And
exactly.
DataOps started with, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but DataOps started with a blog post from Tamer. And again, I'm not promoting Tamer here, but I think this is the reality. DevOps, from DevOps to DataOps, is the first time on the internet we saw the word DataOps. And the definition from Tamer at the time was DataOps stands for data operation and their automation in a modern data engineering ecosystem. And I like this representation they used to kind of illustrate DataOps. I would say that this was right 6 years ago. It was in 2015, but it has changed quite a lot. It's no longer that way. And other definitions that you can see are more complex, probably. Gartner say it's a collaborative data management practice focus on improving the communication, etc. Well, the bold thing is important. And also, what I like is between managers and consumer across an organization. Wikipedia say DataOps is an automated process-oriented methodology. It's a bit different, but it's used by the analytics and data teams to improve the quality and reduce the cycle time of their data analysis. All for me, all the three definitions here are correct. They are just having different perspectives. And what I can say is that DataOps is basically, it's commonly okay to say that it's borrowing method from DevOps, lean thinking and agile methodologies. So in DevOps, we are going to reduce the cycle time of delivery. And maybe you're going to use CI/CD in DataOps because the thing that DataOps is borrowing from DevOps. DevOps is only focusing on code. DataOps is
Yes,
focusing on data and code. So you might need to, continuously integrate and test your DataOps settings or DataOps scripts, but you might need one day publish your data and version your data. So it's also something that comes from DevOps. The
so
other thing,
basically, DevOps is about delivering code faster and to the actual product or to the IT, and DataOps is about delivering data faster or quality data, value data faster.
yeah, the idea is to reduce the cycle time of the delivery. Sorry. And you can use, for that, you can use DevOps techniques. The lean principles are here, things we also use in DataOps. You are basically eliminating waste. Just a sec.
Yeah, waste, no, being all this data that we have that are not actually accurate. Like in the CRM, I have a lot of data that is not used or not properly organized or not complete. And do you mean this waste? So you can identify the non-accurate data.
All waste. So it means what? It means you there are things you don't need to do. You don't need to spend. I might not have the right example on top of my mind at the moment, but You might not need to be super perfect in an environment and spending hours of writing specifications or hours of or spending in data strategy. Maybe you're going to build that time to time, every cycle, every iteration. You don't need to produce a lot of documents that, or a lot of metrics, or a lot of KPIs that are going to waste your time, and you want to deliver to the executives because you are following a very thorough methodology. And at the end of the time, you spend more time writing emails and writing documents rather than working properly. So it's about eliminating this stuff.
Exactly.
And
Yes, exactly.
you also want to build quality. You want to create knowledge across the organization. Create knowledge is what is you are good at scripting with Python, but you also need to understand how your business is working. Let's say you're working with a team, with procurement team. You might need to understand what they do, what is their processes, and they might also understand what data are. And so it's basically the kind of stuff where you are going to create knowledge for everyone. And the last thing is defer commitments. So for this, you have to consider one thing is you don't need to take a decision right now. Just keep your options alive until you need to take a decision, because you never know. Things can change. And especially with data, some data can be obsolete quite fast, So it's interesting to keep your options open. And
Got
the
it.
last, yeah, and the last thing here, from agile, you have frameworks, values, manifesto, principles. All of these exist in DataOps as well. So and there are a lot of commonalities with agile frameworks. Like maybe you're going to use Kanban with DataOps. It's your choice. It's just print in your mind that things like waterfall, like 1 year data project, it's not good. It's you're gonna lose your time. You're gonna have people discouraged. Think DevOps, think lean principles and agile. And I would add one thing, and it's not maybe not something you're gonna see everywhere. It's my own thing. Is there is a pillar that I like in Prince 2. So you're going to say, yeah, you're old guy. You're talking about Prince 2. Well, yeah, maybe, but there's a pillar in Prince 2 that is really true. Is keep business value on focus, which is to say, if one day there is no longer a value for the business, quit the project, close it.
Drop.
Yeah, it's no longer. There is no way you're going to leave the business with a project that has no value for them. It's the same kind of thing you have to keep in mind in DataOps. If you see this is no longer, if it's no longer working, or if you are to decommission this project because no longer is working with it, no longer is you in the business using the data you're producing with this project, just decommission it. Or stop.
It makes me think of a use case I had, Jerome, about in a company that is having this project called a red tape project. So they had so many reports in finance, like hundreds of reports, and they realized that they accumulated, different reports, and some were dated 20 years back, and it was not used. But 20 years back is some kind of a long time, and they didn't the guys were still producing the reports, but it was no use, and it was done 20 years ago, and it's been like 5 to 10 years they were not using this report at a very accurate and top management level. It was just done because it was always done like this. And in treasury management and all this, the world where I come from, the reports that you do every day because you're making treasury management, there is some of them that you don't use because you change your practice, you change your strategy, you don't optimize your cash flow management the same way. So dropping is something that is very, very difficult to do for the business people. So I guess that this is good value for IT and for business, and it's definitely not something you should pull apart from your speech. It's kind of the key for me. It's like you need to learn how to drop stuff and minimize. Also, being kind of minimalistic in the thing you provide to the business.
It's true that it's important to know how to let go something. It's not necessarily easy all the time, but sometimes you need to let go. And I remember some years ago where I was working for a bank. We had a core banking system upgrade, and we were trying to get the business object reports aligned from version N and version N+2, let's say. And there was one specific project. There was 200 different reports, and all regulatory banking reports. And one of them was a pain. What a pain. And I remember just looking at that. Who is looking at this particular report? And in 2 years, it has been seen once. So
Oh, no way.
happy. I was
Yeah.
happy. Oh yeah, we're gonna drop it. And I spent probably a month convincing people that we did not need that guy anymore.
Wow.
And finally, the risk officer said, "Okay, drop it." And they were bored with me saying, "Well, you don't use it. Why? Why am I spending a week debugging that stuff?" And it's all about that. Sometimes you have to let it go, you know. So I was talking about manifesto and principles. You know, I'm not going to read that, but there is here on the right side of the screen, dataopsmanifesto.org, where you can see all this information. But you know what I want to emphasize here is individuals and interactions over processes and tools, customer collaboration, experimentation, iteration, and feedback. All those stuff are part of the manifesto, and it's really DataOps here. You try something, and we're going to see why we try things. You try things, and you learn from it. For instance, for this one, the last one I've just mentioned. And there's 18 principles. And there are some principles I like in particular. There is one that is, well, I've mentioned it before, continually satisfy your customer, always.
Yeah.
Another one is embrace change, because you have to with data. Maybe one day you're going to say, well, my data have changed because there's a new system, there is a new kind of products we are dealing with now, and this is new data as well. So we have to deal with that. And reflect, so it's learn and change, learn and improve. You always have to do that. There is another stuff is analytics is code. Yeah, you are providing code to make analytics. It's code. Get that code. Go on GitHub. Put that on GitHub. Don't lose it. It's important. Version it and version the analytics as well.
Yes, there is so much scripts, and we can talk about VBA. Of course, VBA is one of the most underused. Like, it's not version, and nothing is saved, nothing is version controlled. It started with that for me. Excel VBA, and you don't save your code, and then you change it, and you have no history. I guess this is very important as well to mention that in this DevOps kind of idea, you need also to version everything you do and to be able to go back in time when you need to.
Yeah, exactly. And from there, you can also reuse your stuff in the future, and you don't need to make copy paste. You just basically get the data, the things from GitHub, and so you can make things reproducible. You can orchestrate that. You can always think, in simplicity. Try to make it simple. It's not always easy, but do not boil the ocean, which is something I remember from Tamer, and reuse and improve cycle times. It's basically that. It's when you do a cycle time for delivering things. Try to see how you could shorten it, because there is always something to eliminate. So if you want to know more about it, Data Kitchen, Kinesis. I could have mentioned also other companies, but I'm thinking now about Tamer, of course. But mostly, this is where you can have the Data Kitchen is somewhere where you can have the DataOps cookbook, and it's quite interesting, honestly. Here that I've seen at Tamer, the framework here, the components. So you have to think about processes, technology, and organization. Okay, so it's data. It's a change. It's a cultural change. So you're going to think, incremental delivery through agile technology. You have to think. You don't need. Oh yeah, don't don't replace your legacy systems. The legacy systems are good. They do things you don't want to redo. But if you are going to develop some things, think about components that are loosely coupled, and think about scalability and elasticity, so cloud things. In terms of organization, we're going to see the roles later on here, but you have to specialize people and create new roles. And you are going to also you need to capitalize on the knowledge. You're going to learn stuff. You don't want to relearn. You want to capitalize that. So the things, as well as models that work, we use them. And here there is one thing you don't want to do is waterfall. Don't go on the waterfall side of things where you are going to start something and go on to this process. I don't mean it doesn't work, it never worked. I mean, it's a big risk if you go that way, because when you start here and you end there, how much time have you spent? How many mistakes are you going to keep here without being able to improve anything or being to test anything? So if something I learned as well at Temper is the data mastering, where when you do data mastering with usual stuff, usual technology, with deterministic rules, you're going to add rules on top of each other, and at the end you have a big web of rules. You don't know which one is important, which one you can drop, and at the end you don't know if you want to change something. You have to retest everything. It's a lot of testings. And you can't do that with waterfall. You want to do that differently. And here, I would say the incremental approach is great. So it's important for what? Because you're going to start here, and here this is a quick change. And very quickly, if you have multiple changes here, you can do something here and say, well, okay, is that all right? Talk to the business. Are you happy with that? Yes, great. No, great. Yeah, it's great because you can already.
Yes.
I was wrong, but fail fast. Do not wait 1 year to say, "Oh, finally we failed." No, try to fail fast. Of course, you don't mean to fail, but what you mean is to end quickly the bad journey. Okay?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so you do that here, and then when you see all greens, you continue. Boom. Am I still okay? Yeah, but we've learned that. Okay, so we've learned that in this journey here. Let's try to apply that in this journey and in the next journey. So this is basically that. So you see here, it's all breaking down into smaller parts. Think about a backlog in Agile. Okay, you don't want to, I want to master all my data. No, just don't do that. Oh, I've got 75 ERPs. I'm going to master all the data in the 75 ERPs. No, you don't want to do that. You want to
start with one
or two. Learn that and add another one, and then you're going to get better and better and better, and the integration of the next one will be faster. Just start small and don't try. Go ahead.
The thing here is, and make sure it brings value to the perimeter you are working on, because this is what's scaring people, right? You say, I'm going to go with the incremental stuff, and they say, yeah, but we never see the value then. So make sure your first iteration brings value. This is important to say also, I guess.
Yeah, it's that. And when you are able to show the value, in the same time, build your champion, the guy who is convinced with you on the business side. The guy who is, I like this team. They are doing very well, because he's going to promote that, and promoting that means everybody's happy. You don't want one guy happy. You want all the business happy, and it's not about you. It's about the what you're going to deliver from the data. Data can be a very strong asset. It makes a difference now in companies. So you want to be successful in that. And this is something I've borrowed from the cognitive class.ai about DataOps Process. And I like that because they show things like, well, you're starting DataOps because it's easy to talk about DataOps. Speaking about that, it's easy. It's easy, but you have to establish it. And so it means starting with a data strategy, starting with establishing a new team, thinking about the tool chain. Tool chain is not necessarily data ops tool chain, but it's collaboration tool chain. Collaboration between the IT, the data ops team, and the business. Define the business priorities. Look at the data governance. Try to understand the policies and think about data classification. What is PII and what is not? And then you iterate. So you start by discovering data, you classify the data you just discovered and say, well, those information are public, they are strictly confidential. You're going to manage the quality and entity resolution here. Probably here manage policies as well when you have better data, because you are going to say, now I can put them in self-service so that people are going to use them. And people are going to tell you, well, what I would like to do is this kind of dashboard, this kind of analytic, this kind of predictive things. So you're going to move them, you're going to store them somewhere, transform and integrate them. And then here, you're going to say, well, that's good. How can we improve that? How can we be complete on that? And now we need to publish that. Once you've done this iteration here, you're going to review, refine, learn, and you go back here and say, let's be better on that. Let's make it more stable. Okay.
Yeah, it's important here, because I guess that maybe the first cycle is not using the same tools as the second cycle.
Yeah.
When you have some kind of fast iteration tooling where you need to prototyping stuff, and then you need to make it more robust, more integrated in the IT strategy, maybe.
Yeah, but you can imagine everything. Maybe you're going to say, I don't want to give an example because I don't want people to think, well, so he's saying that because what I'm doing is wrong. And I even don't know what people are doing. But maybe one day you're going to use a script that is, I give you an example, a script that is triggered, multiple scripts that are triggered with Control M, for instance. And one day it's going to work fine, and one day you say, well, it's expensive for us. Let's use Airflow to orchestrate that. So you're going to choose another software because you're going to say, well, it's doing better for our data pipeline. It's an example, you know. Some people are building their data pipeline with a Chrome tab. Why not?
Yeah, and why not? Yeah, it works.
It works.
For some use case.
Yeah. So it's all about improving, and maybe you're going to say, well, we do some transcription, some voice transcription into text to put that into MongoDB. Oh, we've heard about this stuff on internet. I'm just thinking about the machine learning that on the fly is putting the script, and it's online on internet. It's putting the voice into text so that you can use the text on the fly. So it might be very important for financial institution where you still have some areas where they receive an order by voice through a naturally phone platform. And imagine that giving this information, put into a translated text into MongoDB right away. What a benefit! It's great. That kind of stuff could be great for audit, for instance. I'm just thinking about certain traders I met in the past. So that's the idea. And so here we were talking about the process. Now it's a component architecture. So you can see here, this is something very technical where we have data sources and we have things here like we have described a little bit, and consumers. So this is something I've stolen from Tamer, and it's quite interesting because actually, we usually read from the left to the right. You're going to say we're going to use data sources, make some changes, some great stuff, and deliver that to the consumer. Well, I would say in DataOps, start reading this piece of slide here from the right. Go to the consumer first. What do you need? Show me your Excel files where you spend so many macros and so many work on it. This is a gold mine. I want to see. Do you want to change it? Yeah, I would like to change it. I want that in Tableau, or I want this or that. I want to make this transformation. Okay. You want to do that? Great. How do you want where do you want to consume this information? Oh, this, you define the consumption endpoints. And then here, you're going to say, let's have a look, where are the data source? And let's catalog those sources, profile them, and just think about synergies with other systems, or synergy across the data, strategies as well about the data strategy. How am I going to change those data, use them, align with the data strategy inside my company? And you start to storage, to store them, to compute, do your stuff, data mastering, and something really important is you have to basically do that. In the meantime, you have to spend some time into, democratize the use of data, socialize with those people, show them maybe every week what you've done, and at the end, you publish the data somewhere that people can see them, and you also have you can also version those data sets you have, and you might need to define some new roles in the future where people who are going to guarantee that those data sets, those data are true and are usable. So this is a technical part here, the technical side of things. What I like to see is another perspective, is this one, where now it's no longer about external data source like weather reports or, I don't know, database. It's about who is producing the data. So
Yes.
it can be internal, it can be the marketing, it can be the salespeople, it can be a catalog from one of your best supplier or whatsoever. The operations, those are the data producers. And here you can also have another perspective, is what information my consumer wants to have. So is it, you can think that way as well. Reports, is it for the leadership because it's a specific consumer, those guys. Actionable analytics, repeatable models, real-time processing, dashboards, and of course, you might say, okay, based on what the people wants to see, what kind of producing data or data producers I'm going to talk with in order to get what I want here. So you might need to speak the right language and present. The more you go in DataOps, multiple reports or kind of reports it can propose in a systematic way, in a generic way, I should say, to the business. Maybe you're going to say, we do this and that. Could that be any help of you? I've seen a guy here in a company. He built reports and dashboards for real estate companies in the Geneva canton, and honestly, they are all using the same. And he's been doing the same reports, the same generic reports, and they are changing a little bit, but it's highly reproducible what he's doing. He's just plug and play with all his clients. And this is exactly DataOps. He doesn't know he does DataOps, but he does.
Yeah, that's the hidden thing. And it's so interesting to see that in this map, we can definitely see that, okay, it needs to be read from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. It's making me think about this saying of the famous Steve Jobs, which is saying, like, take the consumer and connect it back to the technology, not the other way around. You need to start with the end user experience. Do you want this in this format? Do you want a text? Do you want a report? Do you want an Excel spreadsheet? Because sometimes those leadership guys, they want just an email with the bullet points, with a few numbers, and they want the Excel file attached so they can drill into the Excel file and look at the numbers in more details. So when you come and you ask them the question and they tell you, this is what I did, you come with your fancy data visualization tool and nobody uses it. So you better go straight to the end users and get his input, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one last bit here. You see, this consumption endpoints. I've seen projects where you have a lot of intelligence here, a lot of AI or data science or whatsoever, transformation. And at the end, we've got data, and the consumers say, I don't know where the data is. And nobody has thought about that. So you've got, how are we going to use it? How are the business going to use that? We don't know. We haven't thought about that. It's crazy to think that nobody thought about a consumption endpoint for the business. So this is something because IT or data science team are going to produce a CSV file. And here it's maybe, I don't know, 2 million rows, or maybe something that can be used in Excel or can be utilized by the business. You have to think about an endpoint that is something usable for the business. It's really important. Roles, well, I'm going to start from the right. Data consumers, we all know them. We will see them in data operations sometimes. They're going to say, well, that's not working well. Data socialization, of course. So those are the guys. They can be a developer, they can be a data scientist, or they can be the guy from the procurement. Data owner. The data owner are no longer the IT. No, the owner is the business.
Yes, it's very important to just repeat that again. It's like data should be in the end, and they should be the responsible for the data.
Yeah.
IT should be helping providing the infrastructure and the security and everything around it, not what is inside. Like yeah.
Exactly. Correct. This is correct. I totally agree. You might need to have a new role in your company if you do DataOps. It's data steward, the guy who the business is going to say, well, I've seen that. Can you have a look, Mr. Data Steward or Ms. Data Steward? Because here, I just don't think this number or this registration number is correct. Can you have a look? And this person is going to make probably verification checkings and say, well, receiving the ticket from the business, he's going to say, okay, this is solved now. And maybe he's going to do the creation manually. Maybe this person is going to do that. Or maybe he's going to discover that this is not only one problem, but a general problem. And he's going to come back to the DataOps team and say, I've seen something terrible, guys. There is a big issue here. You should have a look to this. There is a big bug. I'm just making that up. You see, the data steward is a key role. Is the guy guy or girl, is going to make the link between the business and the DataOps, in a runtime operation perspective.
Yeah.
And of course, data engineer, we all know that. And data suppliers, well, it's basically the IT. It can be the source owner. You can ask the source owner, can you give me your data? But usually it's admin people, people who are working with ERPs on the IT side. They are going to supply data with you. Things that I've seen also at Tamer, I'm gonna go a bit fast on that. If you start with DataOps, you might have to think about a structure. There are two structures. You can be the shared service model DataOps team, which basically is going to be the one-stop shop. Oh, I need something from data. Hey guys, I need that and this. And you start with the business to build a project and you deliver it fast. It's great because you're going to centralize all the technical knowledge and the business knowledge as well. It's going to be a great experience for the team. The problem is, how are you going to prioritize business projects? Who are you to do that? So it's not that easy. The other side is the advisory model, where you're not going to implement. You're going to maybe let the business do that with the IT. There is a certain amount of risk in doing that, but you will be able to centralize the technical knowledge. You don't need a full team of people. You need only experts, and it's quite flexible. You're just here to recommend things. The problem is that you're not going to learn that much from the experience of the teams, because you're not in that. So I would say, to start with, I would recommend you to start with the shared service models, because you are going to show you're good at that, and you're going to have an expertise on the field. So this is about starting with DataOps. What not to do. Something I've learned as well. Both at DataWatch and Tamer, don't boil the ocean. Don't waterfall. Don't think one single platform. Oh, I'm using all my information system is based on Microsoft. I'm going to use Azure. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I've read some document. I've read some things, and I've made also some kind of marketing analysis. The big three are quite expensive, and I would say to you, please consider probably the cloud the cloud provider you have in your country, sometimes they're really great. You don't know it. You might say, well, they don't offer to me everything I want, but in some parts are much better than the big three. However, it doesn't mean you have to go only with the only cloud provider you've got in your country. No single platform, no single cloud provider. Try them all and try to make bridges between all of them.
Exactly. And you know what I see is that people have all of them. They have
Yeah,
one bit in Google, one bit in Amazon, one bit in Microsoft. They have their legacy in Microsoft. They log in Microsoft with everything application they have. They use the Google services for the specific thing and the Amazon thing for the another one. So it's
yeah,
crazy that we're going to have some kind of way, a multi kind of connection to the different clouds. And it's not going to be one cloud provider anymore. It's going to be a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of that.
exactly. And not only one software vendor or one platform. Try to diversify and use the software for what they're good at. In terms of process, when you start with high value and data rich project. Measure objectives and key results quite quickly. Make an inventory of project. In terms of technology, certainly decouple monolithic processes. Think API. Start with if you have a new project. Well, I would not recommend to start with a new project with an on-premise project. Try to make it cloud because this is where everything is going now. And use legacy. Don't put them in the bin. Legacy system do things that are really, really good. And you also have people who work on that during years and years, and they have a tremendous skill set that you can reuse. So
I like this view, Jerome. I like the fact to say like legacy system is good. Like we have some good stuff in there. We need to learn how to extract the value out of those things.
exactly, and no, absolutely. They look old, yeah, but they're here for years. So be careful because look,
They're wise, maybe. They're wiser than all these new tools.
them it's difficult. And the organization here, roles. You're gonna need new roles. Maybe you're going to identify existing personas in the company or hire new people. In terms of structure, well, I basically said everything here. Create cross-functional team, people who understand procurement inside the DataOps, people who understand finance a little bit. They don't need to be. They need an experience. It's more about. It's more. You know what? I think DataOps is very much an organization problem. It's very much a people problem. If you talk the same language, that's great. Then business is great. And one thing I want to finish on is the gateways. I just said language here, vocabulary. Build glossaries, build dictionaries, be accurate on the vocabulary. At Temer, I had an experience that was interesting. We were doing suppliers mastering. You're going to say a supplier, it's easy, it's a supplier. Well, no, it's not that easy. You have business units, they consider suppliers in a different perspective, in a different way. A supplier can be a number, a supplier can be something else for them. So you have to agree on a specific vocabulary for that to avoid any misunderstanding. Because if you're not in the same language, it's also if you're interested by DataOps and you want to read things, you read books, you're going to see that you have most of the books are in English, and you have to put yourself, if you're not a native English speaker, you have to understand that words in English might differ than the meaning we have in other languages, and sometimes it makes a complete difference in understanding some concepts. So be careful of that, and the same for the vocabulary. Don't think you know what things are. Just question people and make sure everybody agrees on it.
Yeah, definitely.
And
that's wise advice.
No, but I had some issues in the past with that,
We can feel that you've been there.
Yeah, but there is always, when you talk with some people, you think you understand what they mean. You go on there, and they ask you, do you need me to define this? No, I know that very well. Yeah, well, actually, yeah, not really.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
again say, what that? This is not what I wanted. And it happens. The
Yeah,
last,
don't assume you know. Just question.
yeah, this question, don't assume you know. I assume not.
Yeah.
I assume not. The last thing is, on data project, things are moving fast. Some data can be obsolete quite quickly, etc. So use the intelligence of a pessimistic person. Use the will of the optimistic person to make things happen. And the pragmatism of a realistic. Sometimes you have to say, well, we have failed. We have to stop that. So it's all combined. Just try to make things happen, but don't be only one person, be three people at the same time.
Be a bit schizophrenic because it helps you
Yeah,
make your project real.
that's why you need a team. That's why you need three people.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much, Jerome. It was great. I mean, from the legacy systems are good. You need to go in there and learn stuff to everything about the new roles and the way to think. Yeah, I've learned a lot, and thank you for that. There is Ravi saying it can be tough for many companies established in waterfall processes to make the switch. Yes, definitely. I've seen that also. Celebrating that first iteration is important to show the agile process works for them. Yes. So how to deal with that? Like how do you move a company from waterfall to agile? Do you have a secret? Do you have a secret sauce, or is it too?
I don't know. When I started with working with agile, at the beginning, I said, "Why it doesn't work?" I mean, it's not it doesn't work. It does fully work if everybody is agile, from the CEO to the guy who is going to empty your bin.
Yeah, it's a mindset. It's a mindset.
Mindset of the company. If you have, think about a corporate investment bank. They have a front office, middle office, back office. If you have a front office and a middle office that is agile, good enough. But if the back office is still working in different way, you have a bottleneck. And so,
yeah,
it's
okay. We need to make sure before any data project that every stakeholders is aligned on this agility mindset. Ravi was also saying multi-cloud becoming more and more prevalent, especially as people look to leverage different clouds to their specialties. So it's like bringing some more fuel to what we were saying. Thank you, Ravi. And
Ravi is a specialist of clouds and multi-clouds. So, yeah.
Cool. And there is Andy saying, yet even the FCA, I guess you mean the Financial Control Authority, maybe FCA, as rules now to ensure you can smoothly migrate. Yeah, so like definitely the kind of thing where you need to adapt and change your cloud anytime. And everybody's saying thanks for the clever talk. Bruno is saying that. Florent saying thanks, Jerome. Ravi also thanks for the talk. So Andy also, merci Jerome. Thank you everyone for your merci, your thanks. It's been good. We hope it provides you value and a bit more of understanding of what is DataOps.
Thank you everyone. That was great.
Thanks.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jerome.